Welcome, everyone, to the Critical Music Club number 10, the All-Rockin Roundtable, a chance for musicians, DJs, music writers, and miscellaneous miscreants to meet and talk tunes. My name is DJ Bonus Stops, or Caps, No Brags, Just Facts, Shanghai's number 2 DJ. And this here, the CMC, would like to thank our friends at Raccoon Records, Shanghai's place to rummage records, and Comic Book Ren, China's oldest and bestest comic book store located in Chengdu. And today, we will be discussing the Critic List, your Supervillain theme songs. And our album discussion is the recently released album Millennial Garbage Preach by Zen Mother, an experimental electronic rock group in the USA-ish, UK-ish. You know, we'll see how that goes. But before we get to the roundtable, we'll meet all our critics. Please welcome our special guests, Zen Mother, Adam, and Monica. Give them a big round of applause. That's enough of that. All right.
Wow,
Cool.
it's so realistic. Really, I was like, there must be pages and pages of people that I'm not seeing right now.
They're in the shadows.
Yeah. Is this being streamed live at an arena? Or where are we?
In the underground layers. So, Hey guys, how you guys doing? How are things going for you guys? Adam and Monica.
I'm really good. It was really
I'm
bad.
also really good.
We're both on an upswing. We're cycling up. It's good.
Fantastic. I know some of the people here saw you guys when you toured China last time. I even got my Zen Mother T-shirt on. Look at that. I'm all hip to the game and stuff.
It's nice and worn. Nice and laundered. Yeah.
It's comfortable. But look, I'm not going outside again. I can't. It's not the afternoon, so do what we can. But how's been the album releasing? Have you guys kept busy with things?
Yeah, it's been great. Like, it's been a kind of emotional release. I feel like this album's been put on hold for a while just due to changing record labels and pressing plant delays. So having it finally be out is just like, it kind of felt like our birthday when it came out, which is kind of cute. And we've been working with some video directors for collaborating on music videos, and that's also just been like a really fun process to kind of like reapproach the music with film collaborators. And so I would say like the film collaborations and a few live shows, we've been keeping busy with this music still in some way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just like a relief. What a relief, you know. I mean, just to have it off my shoulders. And now it's
fantastic.
Like out. See, can say bye to it. Let it live its life. You know.
Yeah, and I've shared with everyone the music video for Order and some of the other clips. We'll definitely be touching on that a bit. But so to give you guys a chance to meet everyone who will be discussing your new album, let's do critic roll call, find out who everyone is. Please introduce yourself, say where you are, and especially if there's something musical, even if it's just what you're listening to lately or a music article you read or a podcast or whatever. Let's start with the Motor City Ladman, the conductor of the Honky Tonk Freeway, the Hirsute Hawaiian Hemi, Grandmaster Uncle Dave Bojangles. Sir.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm Grandmaster Bojangles. I'm in Shanghai. Yes, locked down like Brian. And I've been taking advantage of making a bit of music while we're locked down. So, you know, the Chongming Blues. And it's good to be here.
He just released a single you recorded at home, and we'll be talking about more of your music next week for the We Are Shanghai Critical Music Club, where you have a tune or two on there.
Oh, that's true.
And a veteran of the CMC, where we covered his band Hog Choker, and someone else who has songs featured on next week. Matt, how are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, Brian. Happy to be here. I also am in Shanghai. Lately, I've just been playing guitar with neighbors that I've met on lockdown. That is about the extent of my musical output these days. But it's great, getting to know people that's I think we all agree the one of the few nice things about the lockdown is it has brought us closer to our neighbors, people around us that we never knew before,
Yeah.
buzzing about in our busy lives. Yeah.
I've been enjoying your architecture pictures you've been posting online to kind of get me more acquainted with the outside world, which I can't experience. Mac on sax.
Hey, in Taipei, used to be in Shanghai, but out here now. When shows are happening and we aren't, everybody isn't locked. Not everybody isn't indoors because there's a bit of an outbreak right now. I would be playing. This week, I stumbled across. I gotta say, like Spotify is amazing. Sometimes their algorithm for throwing you random things is spot on. Has anybody ever heard of not Dave Matthews but David Matthews? Made this like space funk album called Dune, totally based on the movie, but not the soundtrack. Check it out. I've been
heard of that
walking around to this for
actually.
days going, This is madness. How did I never know about this? David Matthews,
Space
1977
funk.
Dune.
I don't know if space funk, those words resonate with me, but
it's
I'll still give it a go.
I think Sunn O touched on some space funk a bit.
I would say
Star Child.
True. Yeah.
And when I think This Is Madness, I think of the Lost Poets who've got a song called This Is Madness. Yeah, it's cool. Brad in Beijing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brad. I'm a music producer and audio engineer in Beijing. And I met DJ BO, or as Bo, as I just realized that's how it's pronounced, from years of the running around the Shanghai scene. I think we played a show at Yuyingtang together years ago, the Dudettes Fest. But yeah, so Beijing's kind of in its semi-lockdown now, so it's kind of like by community here. So I've just been hanging out a lot. I'm still able to go into my studio and do music, which is good. And I guess what I've been listening to recently, besides Zen Mother, is also some stuff from the UK, like a mix of UK funky and amapiano, this genre called funky ama. So some artists like DJ Polo and Scratch a DVA. So it's more like club friendly stuff. And that's kind of what I've been up to.
Fantastic. And we recently did a live stream experimental night where my performance got completely derailed, but that's how these live streaming things can go. But yours was definitely excellent, and that was cool too.
Oh, thanks a lot.
And I really enjoyed that. And someone else who's got music we're going to be covering next week is Cody. What's up, Cody?
Hey, what's up, Brian? How's it going? All right. I'm Cody. I'm in Shanghai right now, just like everybody else, locked down. Today's day 77. We've been locked down, just like banana house. But it has given, I think, a lot of us a lot of time to like reevaluate our art and work on our art. So I've been working on music. I'm a composer. I've done film score, and I do everything from like, kind of tailored stuff for companies and, commercials and stuff, and do my own work too. I'm also a beatboxer as well. So that's the work I've been working on recently, and a lot of glitch stuff. So that's what I've been into. And next week you can check out, my music with a lot of other amazing artists that we have here that are also on the We Are Shanghai compilation number 8, which we'll be excited to cover that too. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, take some excellent photos too as well. Alex is muted.
Hi. All right, cool. I'm from like the Northeast in Chongqing. It's like Colorado, but bigger winter, less flat. Recently, I kind of got into like night synth, mostly because my friend showed me the soundtrack to a game he's playing with Outer Space Dwarves, and it just sounded very, very much the vibe for me. Yeah, very fun.
Good stuff. And all the way on the west, we have the man formerly known as DJ Matt, which is a name that just kind of made me want to scratch my eyeballs out now. But now he's Vinyl Vader. Mr. Vinyl Vader Matt, how are you doing, sir? Yeah, there you go.
Hey guys, I'm out here in Chengdu. Nice to meet y'all. Nothing too interesting. Not been locked down, so I've been doing all the working and stuff now that I've been finally out of lockdown. Been doing a deep dive into 20s music from Chicago lately, so that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, other than that, hey from Chengdu.
And he's the boss, well, his wife's the boss of Comic Book Ren, China's oldest and biggest comic book store. And you should hit him up and buy all sorts of comics like this one. Boom. Dig it. And Dirty Hair Dan Fantastic, how are you?
Good morning, y'all. I'm based out of Argentina, so at least I'm not the only one over in the morning part of the world right now. Let's see. So yeah, I'm Dan. Let's see. What have I been listening to? Last week, somebody mentioned John Lurie and the Lounge Lizards on this podcast, and so I've been digging into his stuff, watching Painting with John, a show on HBO, as well as listening to Lounge Lizards' Voice of Chunk album that I've really liked lately. And then one weird thing to add though is I used to live in this relatively small island of Grenada. It's like 100,000 person album. I moved out of there about 6 months ago with my wife and my kid. And what I realized is John Lurie decided after having a stalker and having cancer and having chronic Lyme disease that he was going to move to a remote Caribbean island. And as I've been watching his show, I realized, wait a sec, he lived like 2 to 3 kilometers away from where I lived in Grenada. And he's trying to keep it secret, but I'm looking around and everything just tells me, oh no, he definitely lives like, oh, just down the road from where I live. Thought it was cool and interesting. Anyways, yeah, so found that out thanks to this podcast.
Yeah, John Lurie is amazing.
Well, yeah, I did some gigs in Grenada. We got to go down there, Dave, when we can travel and stuff. And people recently brought up our old punk band, Dave. Dan, I'll talk to you about that later. Eugene, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm okay. How are you doing, man?
Cool. What do you have something you want to mention? What are you listening to lately? Are you DJing or whatever?
No, I've just been listening to John Digweed compilations on transitions while I'm training at home and running around. Not listening to anything new.
Fantastic.
But yeah, Shanghai's been pretty tough on getting creative with the lockdown. So all I've been doing is trying to keep fit.
Cool. You got a very popular apartment. People walking back and forth. Julia.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic here, man.
Huh?
Julia, say hi.
Hi.
Okay, I'll take it.
Oh, no.
Karen, are
Shanghai
you saying
as
anything?
well. Listen to music. Cool.
Cool, I dig it. Yelly, do you want to say hi? Alan, I think those guys are just going to sit in and watch, and that's perfectly fine with me. I think that's everyone. So now, Adam and Monica, you know who you're talking to, and let's talk about your album. So, I'm going to propose what I thought about this album, in terms of some of the lyrical themes and also some of the musical ones, and you tell me where I absolutely got it wrong, so you can correct me, and then everyone can learn from it. So, I watched the first track is Henry Matisse, and who I kind of associate with kind of rustic sort of paintings, very domestic. And then I also read in an interview you guys did about the music video Order, where you said it was about little Eddie, who's in the great documentary Grey Gardens, which I really enjoy, which is about this old socialite couple losing their home, this family living in this house, right? And then the album title is Millennial Garbage Preach. So would you say like a theme of the album is sort of the decaying of society, or this sort of society kind of falling apart in that way, the sort of looking back towards older themes of civilization? Monica?
I think that's great. That kind of sums it up a little bit. I think that the decay of the internal world is, and an overemphasis on the external world is kind of like the main lyrical themes throughout the record. And so pretty much, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I don't know if it like,
cool.
I think it consciously, I mean, I'm not sure exactly if like, the Henry Matisse, like, old world kind of, hearkening back to like a more, I would say traditionalism, like hearkening back to a more traditionalist kind of mentality is maybe even further back. What I was really and currently interested in writing all the lyrics for that record. So it's a similar concept.
Interesting. We might talk about that a little bit more, but I also want to ask that's kind of more the lyrical side, but in terms of the musicality, like um, with the music, there's the guitars that might start halfway through the songs. There's a lot of different sort of keyboard styles for the album that might weave in and out of one song. Let me ask you, Adam, this. When you guys were doing the music, did you kind of do it directly where you would want to insert instruments, or were you doing a sort of dub style where you would lay down a bunch of instruments and then take them away? Like, how did you approach the musicality of the album so much?
I mean, it was very much a pastiche of just different sounds and trying different things. I don't think we had one method that worked, but I certainly remember there being like almost pretty vague sketches of these songs, and then we pieced them together based on a lot of like tonal sort of decisions. So that's why the synths maybe come out of nowhere and they like have their own little identity, because like they were an idea that happened in the moment where we were listening through and we're like, okay, that should happen here. But there was some dub elements, I suppose. We definitely like added a lot, but then as far as like editing, we didn't really take away too much. We kind of just left it all in. So, but I think initially we wanted to strip it back, and then just working with Randall during the mixing process, we were like, oh no, everything all in. So then it ended up being more like Phil Spector version of Zen Mother. So
this is your Ronettes album. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think it was the original intention. I know, but it happened, and I'm happy about it. So
cool.
Yeah, like BD, like BDE. I don't know if I can swear on this, but
say whatever you want.
Like big dick energy. Like that. We had like big synth energy, like big, like whatever the equivalent of that with synth design. And then also Randall, our producer, also had the same level, if not more, of that same big synth dick energy. So in a way, we were, it was actually an extremely like beautifully volatile, like intense and passionate synth design session, because we all felt really strongly about various sound design decisions. So when Adam says like it kind of just like became like all synths in, it was really just we were all really excited to track all the synths, and like we kind of married our two sound worlds together, because none of us were maybe humble enough to say goodbye to certain synth sounds.
Nobody wanted to let their baby go.
Yeah.
We all
Well, can you talk? I wanted to bring him up anyway, and you've mentioned Randall a bit. Can you talk about working with him? I know he comes a little bit more from the heavy metal world, right? Some of that a bit. Can you talk about that relationship and how that worked out more?
Yeah, I could talk about that relationship for hours. We have a long history, and like he's just a kind of genius sound man, and like, one of my best friends actually, and Yeah, he does a lot. His early career started with a lot of heavy music, like with Sun and Earth Records. And he spent like the first kind of 20, 25 years of his career in Seattle. So it's like that really like doom, Cascadian black metal like zone he was kind of in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been branching out a lot lately, doing a lot of film work and working with, even just like pop artists and indie artists and singer-songwriters, and pretty much runs the gamut across, all the genres. So I don't know. I think we all kind of like heavy music, and I think live it's actually a lot heavier. We because we use a lot of cabinets, and the
Mm-hmm.
sound it's definitely heavier live. Um, and I think he approached it like in a non-heavy way, which I think was good. Um, and because he always likes to try something new, and has a new idea for different records he works on, and what kind of sound world he wants to go forward in. Um, but yeah, it was a very, very beautiful session, really intense, like uh, just strong energies, and like basically just people feeling really, really invested in creating the record, and like really just taking it to the next level, I guess, sonically. And I think everybody was just really focused and emotional all at the same time. So yeah, he's
Interesting.
just like fantastic to
I
work
think
with.
Randall's got an interesting style where he sort of pulls this heaviness out of you, even if it's not necessarily there. And I think it uh, if it doesn't sound, if it's not like directly metal, he'll make the vibe heavy, you know. So there'll be
Yeah.
Yeah.
dread. He'll like pull the dread out of you, and even like put you in sort of a headspace where you're able to kind of do that in a studio. So there'll be like intellectual conversations amongst like the tracking that like cause you to kind of like think about, I don't know, more of the existential dread.
Sure. Well, you can feel that on the album, I bet.
He'll immediately like throw you into the tracking room after he's just blown your mind, you know. So you're like, oh fuck, like now I have to, what am I gonna do? So okay.
Psychological manipulation. Very nice. So I'm going
Yeah.
to ask about
That's a good
one.
producer for you.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to ask about one track, and especially one part of it. And I'll play a little bit of that right now, and then I'm going to open it up to everyone else, and we can talk more about the album. If you guys have a comment or a question, write it. Put your hand up on the side in the comments, and we'll get to it. So I want to ask you guys about this, especially this drum pattern at in this song, and it's track number 7, and it's Fugitive. So here it is. You heard a little bit of it there. I thought the percussive and just sort of the rhythm, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a rhythmic driven album, but there's a bit of a waltz in Little Jesus, and you have that sort of off-kilter drum pattern for Fugitive. Can you talk a little bit about um, the sort of percussive and drumming elements for the album a bit?
Well, that pattern in particular was like, it was originally a just an MPC beat that then we got Sheridan, our drummer, to play. Um, and I think it was informed by the weird, um, if you will, demented piano melody, the bum bum bum, and I think it just filled in around that. But I don't know, Monica, do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, in general, like we kind of wrote all these songs and did all the drum programming with the MPC
Mm-hmm.
2000. Um, and then we started playing with Sheridan, and she had really great drum ideas as well, and we kind of just tried to marry the two, and work out what she would play and what the drum machines would do. So yeah, just finding out like what, just kind of starting with the drum programming and then working live.
That synth, or I'm sorry, snare sound actually was a weird Randall trick where he actually had Sheridan play the bottom of the snare, so where the actual snares exist. So she played on top of that, and that gives it more of like a weird piccolo, I don't know, that really snappy feel. And she played it really loose, which is cool because, you know, the drum machine version was just like on a grid. So when she played it, she so interjected like just a little bit of chaos and humanness in it, which I really like. Yeah.
That was really nice. Like, I really feel like translating, like writing something on guitar and then playing it on piano, or like writing something on piano, playing it on trombone, like trying to reinterpret something you've written on a certain instrument and then interpreting it with the other one, I think lends itself to just really weird and interesting ideas that you wouldn't normally come across. And I think that happened with the drum programming and the drums.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I have a bazillion more questions, but I want to hear from these guys. I know Brad has a question. Brad, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you brought up the percussion, because the like stuff that jumps out at you the first couple listens, like the synths we're mentioning, and especially the vocals. After a couple listens, I started to hear more of these like sprinkled in interesting percussion ideas, and one of them was on the track we just talked about on Fugitive. But at the end of Sleep, there's like a blast beat kind of thing where this noise wall comes in. And I always thought that was a really interesting part. I don't know if we can play it, but if maybe you have any ideas about that part, I thought it was a really a unique part of the song. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that
I'm
up
gonna
since we're talking
I'll
about
try to bring it
percussion.
up. I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
bring it up from where it was in the song, but we'll see if I can find it real quick.
So that was me. You know, the note repeat button on an MPC? It's like one of the best things about an MPC. And so I just
And
basically,
no other drum machine. I mean, some of them have it, but they don't allow you to like live quantize play with it and switch to different like to different durations while you're doing it live. I mean, I've never found one that could do it. MPCs.
the single greatest reason why the MPC is incredible. But I think that pattern was just like that's obviously like a chaotic moment. So I just remember kind of writing it by improvising, I suppose, just on the note repeat. And I was just smashing buttons in and, and then found something that I stumbled upon that I like. It's yeah.
Maybe some of Randall's heavy metal early influence or something with that. I don't know.
Randall wasn't involved at that point, but
Okay.
but he certainly made it sound good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like Monica, like I know in Little Jesus, I know I remember us talking, and you have a bit of a classical background. And when I heard that song, it's almost got a waltz rhythm to it, and there's almost like a harpsichord vibe to it. Was that influenced from your classical background a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I really gravitate towards the kind of classical harmonic sound, and I love waltzes. I love 3 and 6, 8, and I love that world.
It's got a big
And
6 energy to it.
definitely, yeah,
Big 6
yes,
energy.
big 6 energy, exactly. all about it, all about that. Which is why actually I like juke music so much because it's all in six, which is really exciting. And yeah, and I think definitely like pretty much in most of the music I make, like there's definitely a big classical music element in there, just from playing a lot of classical guitar when I was younger, I think.
Cool. Who's got a question next? Otherwise, I'll just call on one of the people. We've got time for a few more.
I was going to say I got a question, but
Oh, go for it, Dave. Yeah, go for it.
Well, that track "Super" I think is my I think it's the best. It's my favorite track on it. It was great, and the bit you described with the drums sort of breaking down. I thought you had I thought that was live drums, very good, and the singing is brilliant. Is so compelling, really. It's lovely.
Thank you. I had strep throat through the whole session. It didn't really but weirdly I sang probably the best I could. Like so it's a really strange combo of those two things.
Sort of
really
ethereal.
emotive, really good, yeah. Eugene, like you come from like he puts on these goth nights here and he does a lot of things like that. What did you think of the album? What were your impressions of it?
I liked it. I'll be honest, I only got a chance to listen to it today. I liked Order. Order was a good tune. It reminded me a lot of Empathy Test. I don't know if anybody knows Empathy Test, but it was like a slow version of Empathy Test, I found. And I could really listen to your album on if I was smoking reefer. I guess a reefer album. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Highly recommend.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish it was quite slow, but I enjoyed it. It was good.
Okay, maybe one or two more questions left. Dan has a question. Dan in Argentina.
Hi. So good stuff. Love listening to the album. So I guess two questions. You touched on it a little bit, but like, how does this translate live? So because I see you're a core group of two people, and you said you had this kind of like big cabinets and go for a big sound. So what does it translate to? Like how do you play live on stage? And like other than just drum machines and loops and stuff, just that kind of stuff. And what is I guess I come from a more like playing in punk bands, playing in rock bands. So I know the energy that when I'm looking at the audience, I can tell when they're really digging it. When you have music that's a little bit more sinister, a little bit more kind of the vibe that you guys are going for, how do you know that, like, what's the vibe that you really are excited to see in your audience?
Good question. Fear, crying. Everyone's crying.
Just like dumbfounded stares of shock and awe.
You can feel energy in a room, like, and then you can really like I don't think anyone needs to be physically moving at all. I think you might not even need to see anybody. Everybody's eyes could be closed, and like you can still feel that people are there with you, and you're all focused on the sound in the room. Like that's when I know something's happening and like a connection's really being made with an audience, and that's such a beautiful feeling. It's kind of the only reason why I want to play live at all, because loading amps kind of sucks, and like that's really what we're after, just like this feeling and tapping into this energy force that we're all like tuned in for.
I think a common something that's often said to us afterwards is like it was a mass hallucination that everybody was a part of, because there's a lot of different elements of like just sound swirling around in a room, and especially like in a live setting where there's chaos that we can't even be we can't even control. So it's like just the acoustics of the room provide this like hallucinatory experience, and I think that it dumbfounds a lot of people, so that a lot of people just end up sitting still, swaying, and then afterwards being like, I feel like I just saw Jesus, or or whatever deity you want to fucking call it. But that seems to be successful. Not always the most the easiest to tell if we're doing a good job, you know.
Yeah.
But you kind of just have to wait till the show ends and people will be like, "That was cool."
Yeah, like I said, I had Zen Mother. They came over for a tour in China, and it was a group, especially they were supporting their first album. It wasn't the biggest shows, but it was the shows that people asked about a lot. I think it really affected people, and it's too bad because of COVID we haven't been able to have them back. But I do hope we are able to get them back. I've got a couple people who want to say things. We're gonna cut it off to two people now because we got Supervillain stuff to talk about as well. Let's go to Cody and then back to Eugene, and then that's going to be it. But Mr. Cody, sir, go for it.
Hey, yeah. I had a question. Doing my research, finding out about you guys. I was there for that show here in China, and it was a really, really amazing show. And so it was really great to, hear that you guys were coming in to talk today. And something in my research of your new work, I kind of went through the catalog of music videos. I'm a, film composer. So being really connected to the visual aspect of music is really important to me. And I noticed a lot of really, really great work in terms of the videos. And I was wondering just, especially this recent one for Order, and Eugene had just mentioned Order, so I'm glad that you brought that up. It was really, really, kind of thought-provoking, really cool, and there was a couple parts that really stuck out to me. And I was just wondering about your process of going from the musicality, because as a musician, you just kind of sparky stuff just comes out sometimes with no thought process. But I was wondering if you guys had any kind of visual references that you guys went to when you guys started making the videos, or did you work with other people who had kind of ideas? Did you board it out? Because there was a couple of parts that were really seemed very, very interesting, especially in Order. It was about 1 minute in the bathtub scene, and then she's sliding down the stairs. It was really, really a beautiful moment and really connected well with the kind of a chaos of that moment where the guitar and stuff came in, and it moved from being more synth based to more rock and heavy kind of aspect to it. So I was wondering if you guys had anything to say about your connection between the visual aspect of your work in relation to the music.
I would have to say that the connection is purely kind of a human to human aesthetic connection. With the directors that we've worked with, we definitely didn't have anything to do with the actual narrative or cinematography of anything in the last two music videos from this record, but just kind of had really emotional talks with the director of Order, Mu, and kind of just aesthetic vision talks where we would brainstorm about different narratives, but he's kind of a genius man, and so we just put it all in his hands, and he ran with it, and just so not a huge part of the actual creation of it, but just kind of me knowing him and respecting his work, and us just kind of really believing and trusting in him and knowing he would do an amazing job was kind of the main connection.
Well, fantastic. We're going to cut it off there. I mean, there's a lot more stuff to talk about. Your first album is great, and I know you guys have done some scoring for silent films, and Monica's got some other projects, and I know Adam does too. But for now, that's all we got. So please give these guys a giant round of applause. Even the people down in the basement, please clap. There you go. All right. Boom. So good stuff. Thank you, Monica. I think you've got to go. You've got to get out of here. I think Adam is going to stay with us for a bit for the
stick around.
List, but absolutely. Thank you again, Monica, and enjoy your time in London.
Great talking. All right.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
Cheers. Okay. Good stuff, guys. It's time now. I've got my cape on, and I've got my Stanley Black Satan Superstar record here. It's time for us to talk about your Supervillain theme song. So just to give kind of an overall summary of what people come up with. It's not winners or losers, but just to give a feel for it. First, we have the points, and of course, a first place, a ranking number 1 gets you 5 points, or a number 2 gets you 4 points, and on and on. The most points by artist was in third place, Hans Zimmer with 6. Number 2, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with 8 points. And number 1, John Williams. In terms of the most appearances, it's a whole bunch of people tied with 2. Hans Zimmer, Shirley Bassey, Tim Curry, Nick Cave with 2. John Williams got 3. And then the most appearances by the song, it's tied with 2 each from Sweet Transvestite, the Rock Hour Picture Show version with Tim Curry, Goldfinger, and the Imperial March, which shows up in 2 different versions. One of them was a little curious, and I look forward to talking about that. But before we get to individual people and before we get to the critic quiz, let me just say, what were your first impressions about this one? Was this an easy one? Was this a hard one? How was this for you, Mac on sax?
So when I started, I thought I had no direction whatsoever. And I was like, this is going to be the hardest thing. Like, I can't think of anything. And then it just completely flipped. And I had too many to choose from in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it started out like I felt like, oh man, I'm never going to come up with anything. And I ended with like, how do I whittle down these 20 to 5? So I loved it.
Fantastic. We have a Android in Jilin. Maybe you could give your impressions. Android.
Yo, I'm here. I can't see in this thing. I'm blind without my glasses. I'm honestly surprised no one picked the Sephiroth theme or like or anything from Rob Zombie or Power Man 5000 or more Androidy stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. There was a little hip hop. I was expecting a little bit more. We'll touch on those. Any other who hasn't done this before? I know Matt struggled a lot with this. Matt in Chengdu. You sent yours in very last minute. Talk about your thought process a bit. In general, how was this for you?
That was hard. I started out thinking about what made me want to be a super villain, and then that list was way too big. And then when I started doing my deep dive, I narrowed in on songs supervillains actually sung in TV shows or movies, and that's where I got my inspiration for this list.
Yeah. Interesting. Karen brings up that she says it's supervillain, not just villains, which is true. Do they need superpowers? That generally is what separates villains and supervillains. Maybe that's something we can touch on a bit as we go down the list. That's right. We have a trivia question. Hey, Dan, talk about the trivia question.
Hi everyone. Some of you haven't been here for too many of or weren't here for the last session, but we're trying out a new segment. Alberto, my big man here, just helped me write this question. So what we're going to do is every week we're going to have a trivia question, numerical in value, and whoever gets the closest to it wins a prize of getting to pick the outro song for the show here. And so this week's trivia question related to super villain stuff is, I put it in the chat, but I'll also read it out loud, is John Williams, the composer of great villain theme songs like the Imperial March and the Jaws theme mentioned by you all, has the second most Oscar nominations of all time. How many Oscar nominations does he have to date? Loads, maybe loads. It's the second most of all time. So drop it in a private message to me. Whoever gets closest or gets it right on first will get a little prize of playing the outro song for this. So once again, I'll read it to you, and then you have the rest of the top 5 list. Go around to give me a number. So just put it in the private chat, and we'll go over it after everybody's gone through their numbers. So gone through their list. So once again, John Williams, the composer of great villain theme songs like the Imperial March and the Jaws theme that you all mentioned, has the second most Oscar nominations of all time. How many Oscar nominations does he have to date? Everyone's allowed to participate, critics or people just sitting in.
Message them directly to Dan in the private chat here on the side. And you will also win a prize from Raccoon Records if you're here in China. And you get to choose the song at the end, like Dan mentions. We're going to hear a bunch of songs today during the Critic List. Pick the one that's your favorite, and that will be our outro song. Back to you, Matt, in Chengdu. Your number 5 is a cover tune, Melissa Rauch, Hanging on the Telephone. Your number 4 is by NPH, which is what the hip kids call Neil Patrick Harris, and Gray DeLisle, Death Trap. Your number 3 is by Mark Hamill, I Go Loony. Your number 2 is Michael Cerveris with the Cell Block Tango. And your number 1 is again Neil Patrick Harris with I'm the Music Meister. Talk about your choices, Matt.
Well, number 1 was definitely a no-brainer. It's just the best supervillain song ever sung in a cartoon. Neil Patrick Harris plays the Music Meister in season 1 of Batman: The Brave and the Bold, in possibly the best musical cartoon episode of all time. It's just wow. Watch that episode. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Number 2 is probably the most interesting. Michael Cerveris is the actor who plays Professor Pig in the television show Gotham. And he sings a short rendition of Cell Block Tango while he is literally feeding the most influential Gothamites of the city orphans. And it is a really spooky, messed up supervillain scene that, I don't know, it will make your blood tingle. When I was watching that episode the first time and it started into the music, I'm a big Chicago fan, and I stood up. It was the entire time of that scene. It's chilling and fantastic. And the last one I'll touch on is number 3. Of course, Mark Hamill's most famous for Star Wars, but for all of you Batman fans out there, he might also be your most famous Joker. He's been voicing the Joker ever since season 1 of the Batman the Animated Series, and he's been in many of the movies and quite a few of the video games. And the song I Go Loony is the song Joker sings to Detective Gordon as he is being tortured by Joker in the movie The Killing Joke. And it is a fantastically weird sequence. If you haven't read the comic, it's great. And the way that they bring that scene to life in the movie is weird and spooky and fantastic. So,
do you have The Killing Joke available at Comic Book Ran?
Yeah, well, of course we have Killing Joke available. That is a classic.
Everyone should own that now. Cool. Well, that's good. And then your number 4 is Neil Patrick Harris with Death Trap again, and Hang on the Telephone, originally by The Nerves, not by Blondie, but we talked about that before. And I'm going to play a bit of the Music Meister, and then we're going to go to the other Mac for his top 5. But in the meantime, here is Neil Patrick Harris.
Then it sounds to me like it's time to rumble.
Indeed, but it is you who will take the tumble.
I'm sorry, hon, but did you just sing that?
Of course I did not. Wait, yes I did. I'm sounding shrill against my will and cannot stop this singing. And in my ears I swear I hear a quite distinctive ringing. This silly game is very lame and someone's going to pay.
An unknown force, but where's the source that has us in its way?
Who is doing this to us? And on this we must conquer
the destiny. Despicable, disturbingly inexplicable, and imminently kickable. Let's get it off and where is
the Music Meister.
We're going to move on to our next person, Mac on sax. Your number 5 is by Thurl Ravenscroft, also the voice of Tony the Tiger. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Number 4, also Shirley Bassey with Goldfinger. Number 3, from the Bay Area, like you are, Primus with the 7. Number 2, Judas Priest, Breaking the Law. And number 1, Faith No More's Crack Hitler.
Yeah, I don't think number 5 or number 4 need a lot of explanation. Stealing Christmas is about as super villainy as you can get, and it's just a great track. That's in a fantastic Bond theme. I think it's one of the only Bond movies that's named after the villain, and Bond themes are fantastic. The Seven, a Primus concept album about a children's book about these goblins that go from place to place and suck the color out of the world. And they finally get to the Valley of the Rainbow. Fantastic album from start to finish. This song is like their theme, and of course it's in 7/8 because, let's make a prog rock album. So it's fantastic. Number 2, Breaking the Law. It just seems like it should be a theme for a supervillain, since it's kind of what they do. Number 1, Faith No More, Crack Hitler. That song, I've been loving that song forever. Just the synth in it is all creepy. Patton's singing through this box that makes it sound like he's telling you the story through a telephone. And just the lyrics, I got a gash in my head and a smile on my face and a shadow called danger. And I live in your sheets and on the streets and heart of every stranger. Like, he just sounds like a dastardly villain. And I don't know, love that song. So that's my breakdown for you.
All right, I'm going to play Crack Hitler, excellent title, next.
Go from about a minute in.
I will go from about a minute in, yes, sir. And then we're
That's
going
good.
to get to Karen. If she can talk, we'll find out soon. Very good. And if you really enjoyed that, like I said, remember that song and you can choose it to be our meeting closing songs. Karen, are you with us? You got your technology worked out at all?
Hello.
There you are.
My technology works. It's just no camera. Just a bit hectic here. So
Okay. Your number 5,
rather
Chili
not
Gonzalez,
share.
Supervillain music. Number 4, Mel Levin, Cruella de Vil. Your number 3, John Williams, The Face of Voldemort from Harry Potter, of course. Number 2, The Emperor's theme from John Williams. And your number 1, also from John Williams, the theme from Jaws.
Yo. So as I said before, it's like supervillain, and most of them are actually not supervillain. So like the top 2 are not. So top 1 it was not. I was just thinking about like what is actually the most iconic and simple. All 5 of them actually can play on the piano. So if you actually want to see it, you can check it out and learn it. Chili Gonzalez one actually just discover it through this section. So it's an interesting found. Basically, Chili Gonzalez actually has have all of the elements that actually like included in a supervillain song most of the time, like more classically done, because it's like with the big orchestra, and with all the grand epic thing you can imagine in a song. So it's kind of interesting. Cruella de Vil song will use a lot of heavy bass on the piano, so it's also quite interesting. I think the John Williams one is always quite epic. He used very like minimum notes to actually just play the creepy sound. Like the for Voldemort and Jaws are actually quite similar. Like after Jaws has been a long time, and then Voldemort is actually more in the 2000s, right? So then he's still using the same method to actually go through that. So, lots of credit for the minimalist. in a
Cool.
sense.
I was a bit disappointed. You dressed up as Dr. Frankenfurter for Halloween, but you didn't go with Rocky Horror for your list.
Because it's not. I guess it's like a super villain within mentally and like more inside in the closet kind of thing. So yeah, man. Sorry for your disappointment.
Well, that's okay. I'll live with it. In the meantime, I'm going to play the Jaws theme, and then we are going to get to Julia. Thank you very much, Karen. And here's John Williams with
Cheers.
Jaws.
Sorry.
There it is. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we all know that shit. That's good. And yeah, I don't know. And after you've been dynamited a bunch of times and speared and stuff, you survived that. You're a supervillain as far as I'm concerned. Julia, you with us? Total Stravinsky vibe, says Adam. Yeah. Your number 5 is Korn featuring Noisia, Burn the Obedient. Number 4 is Scum, Insane Poetry, and Ouija Mac with MMMFD and NMMFD with Violent. Number 3 is DK0 with Turn Up the Hate. I'm sure a lovely ditty. Number 2, Mindless Self-Indulgence with 5TR82HE11. Straight to Hell. And your number 1 song was, I guess, a minor hit, right? Butcher Babies with Lilith.
So when you said you're supervillain, I pictured me as a villain, and why not? Most of my music has this kind of theme to it anyway, so I had to kind of dartboard it. And if I have to put a villain surrounding these songs, I would go with X-23 when she was an assassin, because it totally goes with her thing. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Lilith is just like badass bitch. That's, you know, I'm gonna bathe in the blood of innocence.
Good stuff. Well, on that note, I will play Butcher Babies Lilith, and then we are going to next get to Eugene. So here you go. All right. Cool stuff there, Julia. Up next, Eugene. It's an interesting one. We talked about this privately. Your number 5 from the original Tim Burton soundtrack to the original Batman movie. It's Prince with Party Man. Your number 4 is Hans Zimmer with Patricide, which is from Gladiator. Your number 3 is Douglas Pipes with Krampus Carol of the Bells. Number 2, the iconic John Williams, The Imperial March, Darth Vader's theme. And number 1, you chose a band that did some villainous themes on some soundtracks, but I wouldn't consider this one the most famous. But it's your choice. It's Queen with Give Me the Prize, Kurgan's theme. Talk about your list, Eugene.
So you wouldn't consider that the most watched?
Well, when I think
I didn't get
of
what you
Queen,
said.
well, with Queen, I think of them doing. Well, you have them doing music for Metropolis. You have them doing music for what's the other movie they did a soundtrack for with supervillains in it? Anyone? Who's thinking of that?
Flash Gordon, right?
Flash Gordon, yeah.
Yeah, Flash Gordon.
But like, yeah, Flash.
Flash.
Oh, King of the Universe. Yeah.
That's an awesome soundtrack,
Whoa.
man.
But then also Metropolis with Love Kills is on that one, right? I think. But they re-released the silent film Metropolis, and they did songs for that as well. But you didn't go for that. But talk about your choices. Not for me.
Okay, so I struggle. The first thought that came to mind was Kurgan, and that's Kurgan's song. And Kurgan, to me, is the most evil motherfucker that was ever on screen. Like, I watched Highlander when I was very young, and I fell into the Christian trap when I was a pre-teenager, and that movie came out around that time. And there's a scene where he's in the church with like safety pins like stuck into his neck, and he's like dissing the nuns and whatever. And his song was like, "Give me the prize." And he was the most evil villain in movies to me for a long time. He was hardcore. He was super cool though, but to me he was the most evil guy that I've seen in movies. So that was a tune up Christian trap. Oh, sorry, are there any Christians here? I'm sorry, but it is a trap.
That's another conversation. We talked about
I
the
struggled with that list, man.
Let me open this up to everyone else. Dave, what did you think of the Prince Batman soundtrack? Yeah, you didn't like that at all, right? You're not a Prince guy, right?
To be honest, I don't think I've seen the movie.
What?
I ain't seen Batman.
You haven't seen the original Batman? Oh my god.
The soundtrack is kind of maligned a lot.
Batman.
Yeah, with Tim Burton and Jack Nicholson, and who doesn't like that?
I don't think I've seen it.
Because I know some people don't. I'm just opening it to anyone. Just yell it out. Who doesn't like it? Because a lot of people, you read a lot of hate about it online. Anyone?
Huh.
All right, fine. Everyone loves it. What the fuck does it matter? What else, Eugene? What else? Do you have anything else you want to say about him?
I struggled with the Joker one because I like Joker. He's like he's nuts. Like, so when I was trying to do this list, because it was supervillains, I was focusing on the villains and music associated to the villains rather than the music as a priority. So I was looking for like tunes for Harley Quinn. I really like Harley Quinn. She's awesome. But all the music associated with her characters are like mainstream, like tech rap rubbish. It's like all the music that was written for her was shit, to be honest. And like I went
Doesn't
back
she do
to
a cover of "You Don't Own Me"? Of "You Don't Own Me"? Doesn't she sing "You Don't Own Me" by who does that? Leslie Gore.
I don't know, man. I'll be honest. I was looking for
Springfield.
tunes.
Yeah, cool. Whatever. Cool.
But there was nothing good. There was nothing like because they're both mad, right? So there was none of this like weird circus type tunes. Like I don't know if what's that band called? Chemical.
My Chemical Romance.
But anyway, there was nothing quirky, and the most quirky was Party Man, and I kind of like because like again it's associated memory like to those tunes. It was at a very early time in my life, man. Like I was just going into high school when Batman came out. So it's kind of like associated to that time. So that's why I like the music from the original Batman. It holds a lot of memory for me. And then the other ones like Patricide, I think captures the moment really well. If you listen to the tune, it's like there's this internal struggle going on with Communist while he's killing his dad. I mean, So the music captures the moment pretty well, and then Darth Vader's like the Imperial March. It's just the Imperial March. So what was the other one I picked? I can't remember.
I think you touched on all five of them. And you want me to play "Give Me the Prize," or you want me to play a different one for you?
You play whatever which one you like. Play Party Man, man.
Okay, I'll play Party Man. Yes, sir, I will. And Brad mentioned Seal's "Kiss for the Rose." I don't know if he's being sarcastic or not, but that's a jam. I stand by that from the third Batman movie.
That is a good song, though.
"Kiss by the Rose" is a jam. You should have chosen that one instead. But in the meantime, here's Prince with "Party Man."
But that's not a supervillain song.
Let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
I can see the paintings now in the museum.
I know I'm no Picasso, but
Oh, hey, the new king in town. Young and old, gather round.
Yes, he can rock the party like nobody can. Thank you very much for that, Prince. And next is Colonel Bus Crash. Dave, your number 5 was Muddy Waters with the Hoochie Coochie Man, classic blues. Number 4, I don't know if you were touching on Manson here, but you have the Beatles doing Helter Skelter, even though Motley Crue did the better cover version of it. Number 3, Bauhaus, Bela Lugosi's Dead. It's a good villain right there. Number 2, Sonic Youth with Death Valley 69. And number 1, the Rolling Stones with Midnight Rambler.
Yes, well, my songs, they tend to be about real villains rather than the film counterparts. And well, Hoochie Coochie Man, it's like not everyone, but most blues men are sold their soul to the devil and got a black cat bone, these super villains. So I thought that rang true. Yeah, you're right. Number 4, Charles Manson. That was his favorite band, the Beatles. I think that was his favorite song. And all his delusions.
I think he wrote Helter Skelter in blood on the wall because he said that song was a sign for the coming racial war.
Race wars, yes. Genius. We all know how that ended. What was number 3? Then that was Bela Lugosi's Dead. I think that was great, that track. It's like really gothic and very sparse, and it's got what's the vocalist? Pete Murphy. His vocals are so good in that. And then the last 2, I think they're 2 of my favorite songs of all time anyway. But they're about supervillains. The Sonic Youth seems to be about this guy whose girlfriend has talked him into killing someone, and he's got the body in the back of the trunk, and they got to try and bury it in the desert. And his girlfriend's the supervillain because it sounds like he doesn't really want to do it, but he's got to. And the last one, Rolling Stones, is all about the Boston Strangler that knocked off a lot of people in the early 60s. And that's the best. That's the supervillain right there. And you can see I am dressed as the Boston Strangler in his more casual attire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I bear a striking resemblance to them. Go on.
Yeah, we saw the Stones do this live with Mick Taylor, special guest on guitar. It was real special. I thought it was really special. It was cool. I will play some of the epically long tune Midnight Rambler, and then we are going to get to Dirty Hair, Dan Fantastic. Here's the Stones.
Okay. Oh, babe.
They pick it up, they slow it down. It's one of the Rolling Stones' best songs, in my opinion. Good choice there, Colonel Bus Crash Dave. Dan, your number 5 song, you chose the wrong version of number 5. You chose Johnny Cash doing Folsom Prison Blues. However, it's the most popular version, the version he did live at Folsom Prison. However, I stand by the Sun Records version because it's a lot more soulful to me. It's not a bunch of excited prisoners going, woo! They said where we're at. That's another thing. Your number 4, the Dead Kennedys, I guess referencing Pol Pot with Holiday in Cambodia. Number 3, a very inspired choice. I like this one, Charles Mingus with the original Faubus Fables. Number 2 and number 1 are versions of the same folk song. You have Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds doing Stagger Lee. very homoerotic version of it. And your number one, a version that I had never heard of, which I really like though, and that's Pacific Gas and Electric.
Yeah, so kind of along the same lines as what Dave was doing, I went mostly with real life villains. So I disagree on your analysis of the Johnny Cash one. I know you like the hipper version, but it's hard to argue with him singing to a room full of actual convicts about shooting a man in Reno just to watch him die. And then the other four, as you said, were about real life villains. Pol Pot / Henry Kissinger for 4. The third one about a racist governor in Arkansas. Great version. That is the version with lyrics of Charles Mingus's Fables of Faubus. For Mingus the record label was like, nah, we don't want to really like piss off any of our record buyers by you having lyrics about racism. So they waited till they did another version for a different record label that they did with the lyrics about that. But
Mingus.
For number 2 and 1. Exactly. Yep. But for the top 2, I almost went with a list entirely about Staggerly, but I decided to kind of reel it back in. But Staggerly is like, it's almost like the Aristocrats of music. It's one of those ones where everybody has done a version of it and they make it their own. It can be very cool, and it's about a guy who basically shot a guy who had a family, and the guy was pleading, and he shot the guy because the guy stole his hat. And so it's the original Badass Outlaw song. The murder happened on Christmas Day in 1895, and it has been done by a bajillion people, from bluesmen to funk and soul people. And so, yeah, Nick Cave's version definitely takes it in its own story, its own weird path of murder, and it gets nastier from there. I won't get too much into it. Yes, he does. Yes, Eugene, he does abuse a bunch of people in the song. But the best version of the song I actually heard on a soundtrack for Death Proof, the kind of one of the lesser Quentin Tarantino films, by Pacific Gas and Electric. I'd never heard of them, never heard of this song, and then this song just has both. I could be walking into a room and be the BAM Jackson's wallet in Pulp Fiction with this song. So play that version, the Pacific Gas and Electric version. It's just I just love it so much. It's just got a swagger.
Yeah, this makes up for your Johnny Cash one, because like I've heard a bunch of versions of it going back to prison songs, and Wilson Pickett does a good version. I haven't heard this one. This is a cool one. We will play that next, and then we're going to get to Raven Rose Shoots Cody next.
Was early one morning when I heard my bulldog bark. Was staggerly and building a line, squabbling in the dark. Staggerly told building a line, what do you think of that?
Fun fact.
And one thing I forgot to add at the end of it. And the better, no, it also can't be denied, is at the end of the song, in this version of it, he actually kills the devil and rules hell by himself. So just add that little fun bit to the end.
It is a fun fact, and it's also a fun fact that Dan's son's middle name is Staggerly, but you don't have to verify that or deny that. Next, Cody.
Hey,
your number. I'm going to give you one of these. Ready? Your list that you sent in the artist, the composer, the film, the villain. It was all in a lovely PDF. My gosh, it was really a thing of beauty. Not these sort of misspelled, miscreant scribbles I usually get. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate the effort you put into it. Your number 5 is John Duprez with Shredder Sweet. Number 4, Trevor Jones with Kanema Nightmare. Number 3, the returning Tim Curry with Sweet Transvestite. Number 2, Hans Zimmer, Gotham's Reckoning. And number 1, rest in peace to Vangelis with his Tears in Rain from the Blade Runner soundtrack.
Yeah. It was interesting. Matt, I'm glad that you had, I'm talking about Vinyl Vader, Matt. I'm glad that you had a bunch of Neil Patrick Harris. Actually, I was like like really close to picking an NPH song as well, from the Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, Slippin'. Okay, I just want to like say that is one of the best Supervillain songs. It was like really close. So I'm glad that you picked some NPH, because like he is a fucking genius when it comes to being a supervillain. And in Dr. Horrible, also a really good supervillain. So that was a close almost 5. But yeah, I went through these at the end of it. Yeah, you're right.
When did Neil Patrick Harris? Wait. When did Neil Patrick Harris get the
yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg treatment of being known by just the initials? Like, I think of RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Neil Patrick Harris gets his fucking initials codified as well. When the fuck did that happen? He's still Doogie Howser.
No, but
anyway, sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah,
Cody,
it's because he's Doogie Howser. Yeah, he's like a genius. So I guess it works out. Like, he is amazing. So yeah, Dr. Horrible was like an amazing supervillain, perfect supervillain for him. So yeah. I did, I'm a film composer, so like film, when I think of supervillain, that's always the first thing I think of is like movies. And then I think of like comic book supervillains, and then real life supervillains. It's kind of in that like hierarchical order for me. And yeah, I have like a ton of movies that hit me since I was a little kid. I always like I was like a really naughty and bad kid. I was like always, my mom was a cop. So like, I was always like, she was like a Bible thumping Christian cop. So I was always like the super villain, like sneaking out, smoking weed, drinking, like, like getting in trouble. She caught me sneaking out so many times. She went to my girlfriend's house in high school. So I always like identified with villains anyway. And so like picking this was really fun for me and really cool. So I guess I'll get into like the selections here. Should I start with, I guess I can start with like 5 and work my way up to 1, because 1 is very touching.
Just run through them quick.
So 5, yeah, real quick. So 5 is Shredder's Suite. That's Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, the original live action movie. Shredder. When I love Ninja Turtles anyway, but when I saw Shredder, I was like, oh, I want to be this guy. Like, he was just like silent, deadly, just like tear shit up. And the theme is just like, musically speaking, it's just like fucking great. And that music was really like pivotal for me. So like, at the time, I had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtracks, number 1, 2, and 3. The one with like Vanilla Ice in it and like all that stuff too. So the score was just really epic for me. And so when I thought of supervillains, Shredder was somebody I identified with really early on in my like life, and then the music just kind of stuck with me. So it was always like kind of a given for that. Moving on, Kanaima Nightmare, that's from the movie Arachnophobia, and the villains are the mutant spiders, and those are super villains. And so Kanaima Nightmare is when they're in the jungle in Kanaima in South America, and the spiders are falling for the first time. That's the music that's playing, and you see the one creep in to the coffin and like bite the guy, and then creep into the coffin and like opens the coffin, and like he's like a petrified piece of wood, and it just freaked the fuck out of me as a kid. And that I like have a serious fear of spiders like most of my childhood because of that, until John Goodman does the smash at the end with the sticky but even in the barn scene it plays again, and so that music just like viscerally affects me. I listen to it now and I can still feel kind of like coffin, petrified wood, shuddering, like sucking blood. Yeah, amazing. So a lot of these are like visceral for me. 3, yeah, Sweet Transvestite. I mean, like growing up like as a musician, I kind of like didn't realize I was a musician as a kid. I kind of grew up to it, but like my uncle would have us watch these like crazy movies. We watch like slasher films and like horror stuff because my mom was like super Christian, and he was like, no, let me show you the real shit. And so one time we watched Rocky Horror, and I remember being like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 or something, and I was just like, like everything. It was just everything. And so I didn't know what a transvestite was back then. I didn't get the whole trans thing when I was a kid. And like later on, it like started clicking, and I was like, oh man, my uncle was so great. Thank you. And so, Frankenfurter's like a super villain, just like extraordinary in my mind. Moving on, Gotham's Reckoning. Bane. I'm like Bane inside. He's like the anarchist I always wanted to be, just like tear it down, use all of like the military against itself, and use the government against itself, kind of super villain extraordinaire. So the music and the theme for that is just like perfect for me. And Hans Zimmer is just like, from a composition perspective, this song and this music, all of Hans Zimmer's music is just musically just perfection, and he has a really good way of like evoking feeling really well, and Gotham's Reckoning is just really good. And then Vangelis. Blade Runner's like always been my favorite movie, and like the soundtrack, I've had it on tape. When I was a kid, I had my Walkman, and I would listen to it with my like, the yellow headphones that like go over in your ear, and like I would just skateboard with it playing, and it just like stuck with me my whole life. And I at the end of the movie, when Roy Batty is just getting shot and killed, and he like shoves his hand through the wall and grabs Harrison Ford's neck, and like slowly dies, and he does that speech, and that speech was improvised, at the end of the movie, and Blade Runner. It was like the perfect supervillain, and then he like dies, at the end, and it was just like stuck with me. And the music is just like perfection, and anything by Vangelis is just like fucking genius. So that's why these five kind of stuck with me. There are a lot of other things, and I think like all of us kind of went through a lot of like back and forth between what this is. But for me, like these are songs that like identified with me as a supervillain, if I were to be a supervillain, and like what I always want to be. If I could just like not have to deal with society's rules and just be like what I actually wanted to be, I would totally be like a mutant spider, Bane, like transvestite. Like I would do it. That would be me. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to play your song, Cody, the mutant spider transvestite. Here is Vangelis with Tears and Rain. Rest in peace to him. And then we are going to get to Brad.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire or shoulders alive. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near 10,000 feet.
Very cool. Eugene, you wanted to ask Cody something?
Yeah, Cody. So I mean, I love Blade Runner. I love them both. Like the first one, the second one. I'm also a huge Dune fan. 1984 was like fucking awesome. But I also like the new Dune. But the soundtracks are very, very different, and they're done by very, very different people. But both of them, like Hans Zimmer did them both. But Toto did the original Dune, and then Vangelis did the first Blade Runner. So, what do you think of the new soundtracks?
Yeah, that's something I go through a lot, like, kind of old versions of movies and new versions of movies, and then the musicality between the two. Like, and to be honest, like, I fucking love both of them, completely different reasons. The old Blade Runner, like the Vangelis, is just like so raw and so perfect. It's like the best combination of film noir style music with kind of cyberpunky kind of kind of modern at the time. And it's 1981 we're talking, so that's like techno, kind of like what it would be at the time. But Dune, that's a really good kind of combination, because the old Dune soundtrack is like really, really kind of kitschy in a way. It's kind of like novelty in some way. And the new Dune soundtrack, I listen to it still right this second. I like listened to it 2 days ago. I just like, I'm obsessed with it. It really captures what that sci-fi post-apocalyptic kind of cyberpunk kind of feel is. So yeah, there is a really, really good relationship between what is considered old sci-fi and new sci-fi, and like how films represent that and the musicality of that. I mean, modern music kind of is evolving in a very, very rapid rate with the advent of decentralization and technology and our access to instruments. So yeah, the sky's the limit when it comes to what we're see remakes in the future.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Awesome. Okay, but it
Good
sounds like
stuff.
music now is becoming more of like a sound effect than what it is actually a soundtrack. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But anyway, cool.
Brad, you with us, Brad?
Yo. Yes, I'm here.
Yo, you number 5. You chose a very specific version of a famous tune. You chose the Recorder Movie Scores version of the Imperial March, Darth Vader's theme. Your number 4, I wonder, I think this band might have an influence on Zen Mother. They have a track called this, Sleep with Dope Smoker. Maybe Adam can address that. Number 3, FERPA with the Fundamental Mantra of Bon. Some interesting throat singing, I think, in that one. Number 2, Senyawa and Besigma with Alkissa won. And number 1, Venetian Snares with Smarmada. Smarmada. Excuse my pronunciation for those. Go for it.
Okay, so one of the first villains or supervillains we meet as kids is Darth Vader. But one of the first ones that I met in real life was my grade school music teacher who made us learn the recorder. And I just thought that the recorder is such a punchable instrument. It's one of my least favorites. And I thought
I'm
that,
going to play
it'd
a
be a
little bit right
super.
now. Okay, I'm sorry.
You get the
I'm
point,
sorry for
right?
cutting you off. I just wanted to give a little sample so people knew what they were talking about. Yeah. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it for me, I was thinking like a super low budget villain, and the recorder would be that, but I had to include it. So that was the reasoning for it being at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sleep, Dope Smoker. This is kind of like the sexy, long-haired, grizzled motorcycle riding villain through the desert. I just always like picture that through this album, or this song. Dope Smoker is like a super long song, but it always has this kind of stoner, sludgy doom kind of thing. And I don't know if Adam wanted to talk, if that was something you're influenced by. I don't know.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, love smoking weed.
All right. And then the next one, FERPA is this really interesting group from Russia. It's like a 3-piece, mostly vocal, like chants in like the Tibetan monks style. But it always reminds you of like the villain in a snow layer or snow realm in a movie. And I just thought it would be really fitting for this list. The next one's a group from Indonesia, Senyawa, and this one they're a duo that make a lot of their own instruments, and it just, I guess because it's in Bahasa Indonesian, always a foreign language kind of sounds distant and different if I don't understand it. So I kind of had like a swamp forest villain kind of idea with this song. And number 1 has been a favorite album of mine, a favorite artist of mine for a long time. Venetian Snares is kind of on like a different planet sometimes, and this album is it's essentially a breakcore album, but all the samples are taken from this old Hungarian classical piece, this classical album, and instead of using like dance hall or hip hop samples or happy hardcore samples that breakcore uses a lot, like all the samples come from classical music. And I remember the first time I heard it, it was like the most gut wrenching, darkest stuff I'd ever heard, with these electronic almond breaks, and it, for me, it just sounded like the most sinister music I'd ever heard at the time. So that's always going to be number 1 for my supervillain music.
Fantastic. Very interesting ones. I'm going to play Venetian Snares right now. Remember, if you like it and you like Brad's explanation, remember it, because it might be our ending song. It will be up to you if you get the closest for the John Williams question. But in the meantime, before we get to Alex and Jeline, here is Venetian Snares. Very intense stuff. Very interesting choice, Brad. Really appreciate you joining us. Alex, Jeline, your number 5 is from History of the World, Mel Brooks, The Inquisition. Number 4, featuring a member of the Four Tops, Levi Stubbs, him in the chorus doing the Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. Number 3, you insist on always choosing these Tenacious D songs, and not even the most famous and acclaimed Tenacious D songs. We don't get tribute where they fight the devil. No, we get the Beelzebub Boss, the final shown. Number 2, back to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with Up Jump the Devil. And number 1, his name's Doom. Of course, I'm talking about Danger Doom featuring CeeLo Green with Benzie Box.
Okay. I'm just I was kind of raised on Mel Brooks. Like my dad had like most of his VHS cassettes, and just I watched the hell out of like everything from his Hitchcock parody to like Blazing Saddles, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Uh, I forgot the actor, but the dude had like white cotton hair, and he was in the Dracula parody too. Though
Young
just
Frankenstein, Gene
love,
Wilder, Young Frankenstein.
Gene Wilder.
yeah, oh yeah, Young Frankenstein. God, I love that. Oh man, love Mel Brooks. But the Inquisition, I have to say, is like one of the best villain songs because oh, what's wrong, Kitty? Chill. The Spanish Inquisition is just a lovely little tune about the god awful shit they did during that time. uh Jumping up from there, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. I had a really neglectful babysitter when I was like in kindergarten. So she would just pop in, like we were talking in the chat, species, scanners, critters. Just and they were all taped cassettes with like really crappy Sharpie on them on the spine. She throw them in and wander off. I'm like, okay, I guess we're learning a lot about this today. Species was a really interesting one, but uh the Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, plant Shop of Horrors. That just caused to have I had like a fear of the cannibal plant for like the longest time, and that and arachnophobia. So just yeah, even now, like my missus, she wants to get one. I'm like, hell no, that thing could get like large, could eat the cats, could come after us. I don't want to die from a freaking salad. So yeah. Moving on. Uh, Tenacious D was a really big part of me and my two best friends back in the States. And Beelzebub, one of the best songs ever. Mostly because the makeup they did on the devil. Um, and just the humongous cod piece they had in that guy. It was legit. And just I would say play it later on. After that, you have Up Jump the Devil by Nick Cave and the Seeds. It's just a very sinister song. I mean, one of my favorite parts out there is like I cut my I cut myself with my mom with a Stanley knife. I'm paraphrasing now. It's a Stanley knife, so I think it adds more to the imagery. And then finally, MF Doom. He is my favorite hip hop artist. Just the mythology behind him. He had Doom bots, all of the mask, where if he didn't want to show up to the show or whatever, he would send lookalikes to the show. So you never know if you're actually going to see him live or not, or with another dude. And just his huge influence, how comic books influences all entire persona. So, yeah.
Yeah. Although I prefer the MF Doom album with Madlib than that album you chose from, but it's an interesting
Yeah,
one
I
as
got that one
to
actually. I got that one vinyl,
yeah.
yeah. But Danger Doom's a great album too, though, because sorry.
You've mentioned Danger Mouse before because you chose him for the Gray album before.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude. I found Danger Mouse literally from Adult Swim, MF Doom from Adult Swim, Action Bronson from Adult Swim. Adult Swim's like that cooler older brother you have that shows you the cool shit. And then now when
Adam,
you're
do you want to
like
mention smoking
35.
weed again? Adam, do you want to mention how cool smoking weed is again?
Wait, what?
Perfect.
What's going on?
Perfectly fine. I'm gonna play Beezle Boss right now from Tenacious D as per your request, and then we're gonna get to
Yes.
Adam, and then me, and then we'll finish off this segment. Here it is. Okay, very good.
Just throwing it out there. That's Dave Grohl as the devil and also playing drums. So just like, fucking awesome.
Yeah. Adam, your number 5 song we talked about a lot, featuring Cool Keith on the vocals. Dr. Octagon with Half Shark, Alligator, Half Man. Number 4, you chose a couple real long ones. You're trying to suck up all my time here. Magma with the Futura. Number 3, Yes with Heart of the Sunrise. 2, Angel Badalamenti with the Pink Room. And number 1, Massive Attack with Rising Sun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't really stick with a consistent narrative, but a lot of these are just like songs that evoked evil to me. So, let's see, number 5. What was that one again? Half Shark, Alligator, Half Man. Well, this one is just like, it's Dr. Octagon's arch nemesis. So, I mean, I think that's self-explanatory. And the Magma one actually has a little more of a backstory because Magma, this French band, prog band, really inaccessible most of the time, but I love them. There was a version of Dune, the movie Dune, that was supposed to come out that Alejandro Jodorowsky was supposed to direct, and this is like this mythological like movie that never existed. David Lynch ended up doing the one from the 80s, but Jodorowsky's idea was to actually use Magma as the band that represented the Harkonnens. So this song, if you listen to it, it just sounds like Harkonnens. It's just fucked up evil synth, and then some like low guttural chanting. So that's that one. And then the Yes song is, I picked it because it was in this movie called Buffalo 66 that was directed by Vincent Gallo. And there's the very ending scene is sort of the like, or I guess it's not the very end, but like the penultimate scene is like him going into a strip club. And I don't know, maybe if you haven't seen the movie, I won't spoil it, but it's just, it's good. I don't know. It's just a really well done sort of musical film moment, I think, where there's some evil shit going on. And then what was the next one? The Pink Room. That one is from Fire Walk With Me. Also just like from a cool musical scene, David Lynch, I don't know, it just seems like it has that kind of grittiness that I feel like it just, you kind of need to take a shower after you watch it, and it just feels evil. But I love that song so much. And then the first one like has nothing to do with any movie. It's just like, this was like Massive Attack was I like remember getting the CD, checking it out at my local library, and then not knowing anything about the band, like just putting it on and then hearing this song, and specifically at the like 2.5 minute mark, there's this synth sound that comes in that is just like, it sounds so fucking evil. It sounds like, I don't know, it seems like it should be like in the Blade soundtrack because it has this like I don't know, this like techno futurist kind of feel. But I just imagine like if I was a supervillain, I would be leather trench coat, like shitty sunglasses with like a samurai sword. I don't know. That's what I see myself as the supervillain when I hear that moment.
All right, well, I'll let that image stay in everyone's mind as I skip to 2.5 minutes of Rising Sun of Massive Attack, and then we'll get to the final list, which is my own.
Nicer than the bird up in the treetop, cheaper than the cheapest on my laptop. All the variations you can do with me. Nicer than
Very cool. Thank you, Adam, for that. So for my top 5, I did a narrative of a supervillain and a confrontation. So I'll play a couple quick snippets of it right here. For number 5, I wanted a good overture, a good score. And when I think of evil music and overtures, I think of Paganini with his cadenzas by Dubach, and here's a little bit of that. And then I wanted like a supervillain origin story, and especially for the next artist, one of my very favorite artists, he makes sense for this sort of list. It's The Ballad of Dwight Fry from Alice Cooper. Let's skip ahead a bit.
Lying on the floor. I was gone for all those days, but I was not all alone.
Very much origin-y, and it kind of really blends well with the music. I should have made a DJ mix for these, but didn't have time for that one. Number 3, Nervous Norvis, one of the kings of outsiders music from the 1950s. He was a one-man sort of band, but he added special effects from tape loops, and he was obsessed with the children's show, and he gave these very naive songs. He was probably on the spectrum somewhere, and this is not one of his most famous songs, but fits very much into his oeuvre of really freaky songs, and it's about a kind of evil space alien coming to Earth. It's called The Fang.
Dooly-ah-ba-ba-ba, zoink, zoink. Dooly-ah-ba-ba-ba, zoink, zoink. One morning I was born on the planet Mars. I gassed up my cradle and I shot through the stars, and I landed on Earth with a solid bang. I'm the Fang. I'm the Fang. I'm the Fang. Now it didn't take me long to get settled down, because when I dug the cool chicks in every town, I said, this is it, cat, let's get her found. I'm the Fang.
That's right. If you haven't heard the Nervous Norvis, you really should. Transfusions may be his most famous song, about giving blood. And number 2, I think if you need a fight confrontation song with your supervillain, Dan mentioned this to me in private before, there's really one song that kind of wins it. Legendary rockabilly rock guitarist Link Wray with his song Rumble. One of the great rock instrumentals of all time, one of the great rock tunes of all times. And then you just had your confrontation. It's time for your supervillain to go back underground. I wanted a song that kind of evoked that, but still evil. One of my favorite hip-hop artists, who's another kind of outsider, MC 900 Foot Jesus. He has a song about being a pyromaniac called The City Sleeps, and here's a little bit of it. There you go. For that, that's everyone's list. Dan, who got the closest for our critic quiz?
So going back over the question again, it was how many times has John Williams been nominated for Academy Awards? He has won only 5, but he was nominated for a grand total of 52. He was second to Walt Disney, who is a producer and animator, got like 60 something. So, but yeah, 52. Loads and loads is correct. And what was actually doubly impressive to that for me, as well as Alex nailed it right on at 52. So a solid guess at 52. So Alex is the winner this week. Very good job.
I want to thank
Fantastic. I'll give you get a little clap. Very good. Alex, what was your favorite song that you've heard here today?
Oh shit. Can we close out Sweet Transvestite?
We can close out with Sweet Transvestite. So we do have some commercials to get to, I guess. Hey, Comic Book Ren, featuring Matt Vinyl Vader and Ash, the boss of the operation. They have a comic book shop in Chengdu. You can order their stuff online. They ship all the way to Harbin if you really want. And if you mention the Critical Music Club, you get a 20% discount for your first time comic book purchases. And they recommend Kuzi, the Origin Limited Edition by Michael Kelly, limited to 60, a locally produced comic. And like I said, talk to Matt Vinyl Vader. He's right there. And yeah, you can get a special.
I am altering the deep. Pray not to alter it any further.
That's right. Talk to Matt and do that. Sounds good, Matt? I got a thumbs up. Very good. And Raccoon Records ships all around to China. They have a physical store on the bun, vinyl, CDs. They also ship online. I'll put a link to them. Everyone participating here gets 5% off. And they asked me to mention that they're promoting an Asian disco record for 199 renminbi. Features tunes from 1970 to 1990, from Thailand, from South Korea, from Singapore, and more. And you should hit up their app and their WeChat, Raccoon Records, which I will post a link to in our CMC WeChat groups. Once again, that's Raccoon Records. In WeChat, it's all one word, Raccoon Records, where you can scourge and find all those records. Right, Raccoon? That's right. Good. Final announcements very quickly. Our next meeting is June 5th for the We Are Shanghai special, featuring a lot of people who are in this WeChat group right here. We'll talk about that 65-song Behemoth. Very good. Also, in my Going Through Pages Rock and Roll Book Club, we are reading a book right now, but the next book, which you should sign up for, is Ginger Baker's autobiography, great drummer for Cream and others. We will be talking to a bandmate of Ginger Baker next month for the CMZ. I very much think so. Finally, if you want to attend future meetings, whether if you want to confirm, please message me directly to RSVP. And I can really use help on these events. You can donate with the QR code if you so choose. Please help promote. If you want to help in any other way, boy, I would really appreciate that. I will find a role suitable for you, from planning, publicity, editing, content, research, etc. If you have any other feedback on how to make the events better, please let me know. These things are kind of new. I'm figuring them out as I go. So I could use any sort of ideas or things that sucked or things that were great. Thank you very much once again to Zen Mother. Adam's still with us there, probably thinking about getting high, as he should be, because he can. And thank you for everyone for participating. As per the request, here is Sweet Transvestite. Dara Otzi, everybody.
How'd you do, I? See you met my faithful hand in hand. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were a candy man.
Don't get strung out.